Thanks for coming, everybody. Obviously, the purpose of this is to go through the Do3 Commit program. The program itself is a little bit more organised than this meeting has been. You'll be glad to know. The Do3 Commit has some technology in it, but nowhere near as complicated as trying to get all this set up was. But never mind. So you can see the screen and you can see the Do3 Commit opening page there. We'll crack on. So this is where we see if it actually works. Okay, so Do3 Commit is actually coming in 4 levels this year. So first of all, we have the standard Do3 Commit, which we'll explain about in a minute. We've got Do3 Commit Edge, which I'll explain about in a minute. But yeah, that's exciting in relation to the race that we've just announced today. Do3 Commit Flex, and then Do3 Commit Swim. Okay, so they're the 4 different levels that are available on the Commit program. And you guys that are watching, if you've got any questions or anything, just put it. If you put it on YouTube or put it on Facebook or wherever you're watching, I think you're probably on YouTube actually. It should pop up on my screen. I'll try and cover those as we go. Okay. So Do3 Commit, this is a standard Do3 Commit program really. So it's described as a progressive squad training program that will take you through the off-season into next year's races. So the idea of it really is to provide a program for athletes to give them a little bit of structure in terms of the way that they train. Many athletes just kind of cobble it together and try and make it up as they go along. And some people do a reasonable job, some people don't. So this is just going to give you some structure, and we'll be I'll go through this in a second, a little bit later, but we'll be looking to peak for middle distance racers around about May time. So usually around about kind of peaking for Outlaw Half in May, around about that kind of time. So the idea of Commit then is for athletes to have a regular input from the coaches here at Do3, but without the cost of going one-to-one. The monthly fee, you'll be given a training plan and a multitude of other benefits, including weekly online drop-in sessions with coaches. You get discounts and all sorts of bits and bobs in terms of the services that we offer. You also get access to the Do3 Commit Facebook group for kind of peer support. But the most important thing is we will make ourselves available through an online chat, a little bit like this, so we can go through your questions and tidy up any questions that you have. So Do3 Commit Edge. It's a new one for this season, and it's virtually the same as the standard Do3 Commit, but it's effectively shifted a few weeks back. So Do3 Commit and Do3 Commit Edge are fixed programs. They're fixed in place, with Commit peaking for middle distance in around May and Edge peaking for middle distance in around June, just in time for the On the Edge middle distance triathlon, which is going to be at Compton Verney, which we announced today. So similar kind of program, but just kind of peaking and trying to get you ready for those particular races at that time. Now, with these 2 programs, if you're going longer after May, it may well be that this would see you through until then, and then we can speak about maybe putting you on the Flex program or something like that to try and see you through to your long distance race. Similarly, even if you're racing shorter distances, a lot of this will be really helpful to you. You might not want to do some of the longer stuff, because you're not going to need to go particularly long if you're going to do a standard or a sprint try, but it will still provide a lot of structure and a lot of benefit because of the way we construct the training programs. So we also have Do3 Commit Flex. Now, Commit Flex is like the GTI Commit. It's obviously a program which is going to take you through to your key race. The thing that we do with Commit Flex is we spend time talking to you and finding out what those races are, and we apply an appropriate plan for you to get you ready for that particular race. That could be a standard distance race, it could be a sprint, it could be a long distance, it could be middle distance, it could be later in the year. So it's flex because it's adjustable to your race rather than the standard commits are fixed in place. This Commit Flex is flexible, and it is obviously more appropriate to you if you've got races kind of later on in the year, I guess. So that's the way Commit Flex works. It takes a lot more kind of work to get set up, a little bit more contact with the coaches on that one, which is why it's a little bit more kind of expensive. And then finally, Commit Swim. So this is a swim only plan. So this basically gives you access via Training Peaks to all of our swim programs So even if you don't come along to the swim squad sessions, then it will still allow you to follow the program through and effectively do the same kind of sessions that we'll be doing in squad. So well worth doing that if you want a bit of swim kind of direction, because nothing worse than swimming if you're not sure kind of what you're going to do with yourself for an hour. So Joe, you popped a question in there. So does Flex offer a specific program for only one race or more than one over the season? Well, they generally will be peaking, so it'll be working to peak you for a particular A race. Now, what we can do is we can work with you to find out what races you have on the way along towards your A race, and make some adjustments in there and suggest some adjustments to you, so that you can pick off those other races on the way through. But what it won't do is if you've got an A race in March and then you've got another A race in July and then you've got another A race in September, it won't peak you for March and then recover you down and then peak you back up. It doesn't work like that. It's a progressive plan. Yeah, there's only so much that we can do with standard programs. So if you want anything a bit more complicated, then really kind of one-to-one coaching is the way you need to kind of go with that. So these are structured, but they're only kind of so flexible because that's all we can offer on this type of program. I hope that kind of makes sense and you understand that. So the best thing to do, as always, if you're not sure about this, then just give us a shout and we can go through it with you. All right, the benefits of Commit then. We have focus and structured training rather than make it up as you go along, as I've already said before. Training plan is delivered by Training Peaks. You get to train with other Do3 Commit athletes. So as part of a kind of a peer group, then you'll be able to find out who's doing the same kind of similar kind of training as you at the same time, and either train together outdoors if you can do such a thing, a meet up, or you can do online virtual sessions, which we'll talk about in a second as well. You train using the Do3 training approach. So we have our own training methodology here at Do3, which has been developed over many a year and has evolved from kind of past experiences that I've had working with other well-known coaches in the world. And yeah, we've had no end of success with our training approach, and I'll talk about that in a little bit in a second. So we use that. Get a dedicated Facebook group and theory workshops. We'll be dropping some workshops in there to explain why you're doing the things we're asking you to do. That will make sense once you start getting into the program. Coaches drop-in session online, and I think there's loads more benefits than that, but that's the main ones. So our training program itself then, so we use a reverse periodization methodology, basically, which means that we don't expect you to spend the whole of the winter doing base training. We don't do things that way around. What we believe in is working on kind of speed and power quite early on, from this kind of effectively from the start of the training program. And then as the training program progresses towards key races, then we underpin that training with increasing amounts of aerobic volume. So you'll be doing the volume later on in the kind of the spring, rather than kind of going out in the cold and the wet in the winter and doing the base training early on. We don't agree with that. We don't agree with that approach. That's not the methodology that we use. We kind of find that athletes, if they spend a lot of time in the winter going long and slow, then what happens is they can come out of the other end of the season. The other end of the training, kind of blunt and not really reacting well to the speed work. So we put that in nice and early, and we try and maintain and grow that speed as we progress through the training. But like I say, underpinning it with aerobic volume as we go. And like I say, it works pretty well. So we get some pretty damn good, decent results, and we have done for years since we started this, really. So one of the advantages is that most athletes actually follow a very similar program through the winter, and then what happens is later towards the end of the winter into the spring is athletes kind of split off into the various different training programs depending on whether they're going long, they're staying short, they're going middle distance. But in the early phases, most athletes will be doing very similar training, because say we do speed work quite early on. So you can kind of almost think that most athletes will be starting with a sprint block. So lots of speed work, lots of strength, but lots of rest and recovery as well. And as a result of that, and we've seen this time and time again, what we find with our athletes is that you can generally race. You can see that they can race multi-distance. They can be fast over sprints. They can be fast over and effective over long distance races too. So in general terms, say this is general because it does vary, particularly for flex athletes. But in general terms, 4 weeks lead-in phase where you do your benchmark testing, and we do that to allow progress to be monitored and training zones and things like that to be set. So you will have dedicated training zones within Training Peaks which you can train to. So you'll know what your heart rate should be. If you've got a power meter, you'll know what your power should be, and we'll help you set that up. So 8 weeks speed and power, as I've just said. 8 weeks speed endurance. So the power the power and the speed drops a little bit, but it becomes more like a standard distance kind of effort there. So it's a speed endurance block, and then we work down to an aerobic endurance block. And then we go into a competition phase where you start to prepare yourselves for whatever race that you're targeting. So they're the blocks. So what's that? That's 16, 24, 34, 40 weeks altogether. 44 weeks with the lead-in. So it's a long old time, but we do adjust it if we need to obviously get you to key races. And I say that may vary for flex athletes because you might be doing something later in the year. So Training Peaks, so we work on Training Peaks, we'll talk about in a minute. So Training Peaks is an online training platform, and we will be loading the blocks up in 4 weeks at a time. We don't just kind of dump the whole 6 months training program on there in one go and expect you to get on with it. We do it 4 weeks at a time, and then it allows us a little bit more flexibility to have discussions and things as we go, and it makes some adjustments if we need to. So one of the aims of Do3 Commit is to prepare local athletes for the Do3 Grand Prix series, and it kind of the Grand Prix races that we generally pick fall in line with the training phases. You can do those, or you can look for similar kind of races in your area. It may be sprints or sprint duathlons, or it might be kind of standard distance tries, or whatever fits in with the phase that you're in. Or you can choose to kind of completely ignore them and just continue working towards your particular A races. Now, this season, because of lovely COVID, we are not sure if we're going to do a Grand Prix race series, but we'll do something else instead. But this is just an example of the kind of races that we had last season, just a variance of races starting nice and short, with just park runs, 10Ks at the start, standard distance duathlon, then working up towards middle distance races towards the middle of the season, or kind of May, June, and then kind of working back down to standard distance and sprints towards the end of the season. So the commit programs will take you up the middle distance, and then we'll take you back down the other side again. So you peak at middle distance and then come back down to work through some standards and some sprints towards the end of the season. But you should be able to race most distances based on this type of program. Apart from long distance, then that's a different kind of kettle of fish, really. You have to treat that quite separately. So hopefully you're still with me. I'm rattling away here quite quickly. Again, if you've got any questions or anything, then fire them across. So Training Peaks delivered by Do3 Commit will be delivered by Training Peaks. You can create a free account on Training Peaks, which will give you access to most things that you need. The premium account is worth it. I don't know how much it is off the top of my head. I think it's kind of 10 quid or something, £10 a month. But what that allows you to do is to adjust your training program much more easily, drag and drop training onto different days if it doesn't suit you. So something for you to consider, but you don't need to do that. You can operate on the free Training Peaks platform. So Training Peaks is on a desktop. It can be on your mobile. It drops you emails to tell you what kind of sessions you have coming up on that particular day. Sends you all sorts of information along the way. So it's a really good system. We've used it for years. There are others around, but we've decided to stick with Training Peaks. It's a little bit more expensive than some for us, but it's really worth it. So Training Peaks is how it's delivered to you. So you've always got your training program in your pocket. It's always there, so you always know what's coming up. So the way it works is once you agree to sign up, we will send you some links to get you connected to the Do3 coaching account, and then we effectively load your program on, and we'll go through the type of sessions that you'll see in a second. But it's super straightforward, and we'll take you through the process, so you don't need to worry about any of that kind of stuff. So this is what a Training Peaks training screen looks like. It's just a general one that I've pulled from somewhere. You can see the kind of the color scheme on there. And what happens is red, you can see there, look, red sessions mean it's been missed. Kind of an orangey color, less than 50%. Yellow, not quite. So you've done 50 to 80%. And also if it goes over if you go over the kind of prescribed time scales, then it will change color as well. But what we're looking for is green. We want everything to be nice and green, means it's completed 80 to 120%, so around about 100% average to complete the session there. And then grey just means it hasn't been done yet. Okay, so it's just sitting there waiting to be done. So you can see, if you go back to the other screen, if it'll let me go back up, then you get at a glance, you can see how successful your week has been. And there's other things over on the right hand side of the screen here. I won't go through these in too much detail because all these numbers obviously mean something, but in summary it tells you how much running you've done, how much cycling, what your training stress scores are, again, which we'll go through as and when, but it's a really good way of monitoring how much workload you've been doing and comparing yourself across the weeks. So Training Peaks will track your training load across the weeks and months, and we'll show you all sorts of amazing graphs which will help you kind of visualize how well you're progressing through the training. So if you click on individual workouts, you get detail in there. So you can see here, this is a sample strength endurance bike session. Just gives you a bit of a description, the purpose of the session, what the warm-up is, what the main set is, which zones you need to be in, and you'll be told all that, so you won't need to kind of worry about figuring that out for yourself. You'll be told exactly what zone 4 is and what RPE 7 to 8 is and all that kind of stuff. It's easy once you get your head around it. So again, and if there's any questions, then you've got the coaches and the peer support group to fall back on. So new for this season then, some of you watching may have done Commit over previous years. We do have quite a few athletes who just stay on it pretty much permanently, but this year is quite a big one. We've started to program in the actual sessions themselves. So what this allows us to do, rather than just giving a description for you to read and try and figure out the session and write it on a piece of paper and take it out with you or whatever you used to do, what you can do now is you can download the training session onto your Garmin directly from Training Peaks, and the watch, and I'll show you that in a second, will tell you what to do. So you don't need to remember it all. And just going back to the other screen, it does drop onto Zwift as well. So if you've got a bike session, it will pull it through to Zwift, and you'll be able to do the workout on Zwift as well, which is pretty popular and works really well at the moment. So that's a really good thing for you to keep an eye out for as well. So just an example screen of my Garmin. This is, I was out the other day and just took a screenshot of my Garmin there. This is a kind of one of the training screens that'll, excuse me, that it will show you. So it'll tell you which particular interval you're in. So on 3-second power, that's the zone. Need to be 152 to 179 watts. So obviously not a nice and steady warm up or something there. I think that was the very first interval. 2 minutes long. And then what happens when you're actually riding the bike is you'll have a little kind of arrow which moves along this line to tell you whether or not you're in the right kind of training zone. All right, so it'll guide you through, and it'll be the same on the run with the Garmin watch if you have that kind of thing. And I understand it works with Wahoo as well. I haven't tested that myself, but I'm reliably told that Wahoo has a similar kind of system to Garmin. So on the right hand side here, this is a kind of a screenshot from the Training Peaks platform. I will be able to see this, and depending on which account level you have, you may be able to see this as well. But basically, this is the blue shaded area is your training, the set training plan. So this is what you should have done. And then the pink is the power zones that are overlaid. So you can kind of see how it follows the pattern. And you can see how well you've followed it, really. You've got light blue and dark blue here, and the lighter blue is if there's a range for you to hit. Clearly, whoever this was kind of pushing it a little bit too hard here, popping out of the zone. But more or less, you can see the shape of the intervals is being followed reasonably well there. So it allows really kind of good detailed analysis if you're into that kind of thing, but it's there for you. So you can train in Zwift. There's the example of Zwift there. The training program will pull through and will sit in Zwift. We'll tell you how to do that. It doesn't happen. It does happen automatically, but you need to know where to go and find it. And we've done some videos on that, so we can show you that. But it will just take you through it. And if you're in erg mode, it will take you through. And if you're on a smart trainer in erg mode, it'll actually start adjusting the power for you. So you just pedal away, you follow it through, and that should be fine. If you don't have a smart trainer, then you're going to have to adjust things yourself. But at least you've still got the program there to follow through, and it counts it down, so it really helps you go through. So that's really good, especially there's loads of people using Zoom, using Zwift at the moment. There's popped up the question there, John. Do you know how much the minimum bike compute, which minimum Garmin is needed? To be honest, John, no, I don't. I've got a 520 and it works fine on mine. The 510, I don't know. You're gonna have to try it. I'm sure the information will be out there. It's not very helpful, I know, but I'm not sure. I think 510, I would imagine you'd be okay, but you might need to give it a try out. Okay, so the program itself obviously contains weekly swim, bike, and run sessions. The swim sessions follow the Do3 squad program, as I kind of mentioned earlier, and you can complete the sessions, same sessions as the swim squad, whether you decide to kind of come along or not. If you are in the swim squad, then you can see what's coming, and you can decide whether you turn up or not. I'm only joking. You would always turn up, of course. So training hours will build as it progresses. They roughly start at 8 to 9 hours. I've actually kind of dropped it down a little bit. It's a little bit lower than that, and we do have various options for you to choose depending on how much availability you have. And they build up to this is a peak now in a middle distance plan, 15 to 16 hours. Okay, so and again, if you can't do that kind of volume, we can advise you on what kind of sessions you can take out or you can chip away. We have key sessions within the week, which are the ones that you really should try and hit. And there's some others which, if you're going to miss some out, we can advise you on which ones you can miss out. Okay, so this is the Do3 Commit group there. So this is just an example of one of the coaches just giving some feedback on a training session here. And yeah, no, that's the kind of thing we drew. We drop into the commit group and we will help you out. Just a little screen grab showing that. So there we go. Coach's assistance. So trying to give you the next best thing to one-to-one coaching, which is when athletes have much more hands-on from the coaching. Obviously, we can't do that with too many people. So this is kind of the next best thing for that. There'll be a lot of kind of support in the early weeks on commit because that's when people are getting used to it. You're getting used to terminology. You're getting your training zone set up. So there's lots of assistance in the early weeks, but before long you'll be up and running and it'll tick over quite nicely. You can see Corin's post popped up there. Look, 5:10 should be okay. Yeah. So thanks, Corin, for commenting on that. 5:10 should be okay, John. So any plans to have the group-led ride on Zwift that doesn't clash with the swims? Yeah, Andy, we're going to try and facilitate that. There's only so much we can do, of course, because people are training all over the place. But we will be certainly suggesting most of the bike sessions are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we will be suggesting that people try and get together, and we'll try and facilitate that. And that's just not local athletes, that's anybody. So we will, if you're in the commit group, we will try and communicate to you guys and try and get some of you to connect up. It may well be that a couple of you meet up at lunchtime, some of you meet up in the evening, some of you are available in the mornings. And we've got the Zoom account, which you guys can, we can set you up on the Zoom account as well, so you can see each other as well if you want to do that. It's not a problem. It's the same with the Sunday rides as well. We're going to be suggesting that you guys meet up and do some training together because it's much better if you can kind of get together as a group. Yeah, so we the coaching assistance side of things, again, we'll be doing some online meetings on Zoom. Obviously Zoom hasn't worked very well today for various reasons, but it works really well in a kind of a more simple setup where we're not trying to do online meetings. So we will tell you when the Zoom meeting is going to be, and you just simply click the link and join up, and you'll be able to have a chat with coaches and also have a chat with each other as well, because whoever else is in the meeting will be able to see and hear you too. So on to the pricing then. So we have Do3 Commit and Do3 Commit Edge are the same price at £30 a month. Ignore it says there's £10 setup fee. We're not going to charge that. So there's no setup fee on Do3 Commit and Commit Edge, but it is £30 a month. We have had to put the rates up a little bit, so I do apologise for that. But needs must, I'm afraid. It does kind of justify the amount of work that we do put into this along the way. So hopefully that doesn't put too many of you off. We still think it's really good value, but £30 a month. And it includes Do3 Commit Swim, so you will get the swim sessions as part of this as well. So Do3 Commit Flex is £50 a month, and again, that's much more kind of intensive and much more connection between the athlete and the coaches to get it all set up and kind of ongoing feedback and adjustments. So that's £50 a month, and also also includes Do3 Commit Swim, and then there's Do3 Commit Swim itself, which is £10 a month. Say just the swim program is being delivered to your Training Peaks account. So I think that's pretty much all that side of things. So what next then? If you decide you want to get on the program, then you need to, well, first of all, join the Do3 Commit Facebook group. It's not absolutely vital, but that's where you're going to be kind of communicating. That's where the peer support group is. So you don't need to do it, but that's there for you if you want to. You need to get hold of a Training Peaks account, so we can send you the links for that. We then need to connect your Training Peaks account to the coach's account, and again, we can help you go through that if you have any difficulty. And then just a final comment there, then as soon as you connect your Training Peaks account to the coach's account, then we take that as a notification that you've joined the program, so you will be invoiced from that point. So the way we're going to do it this year is, again, is slightly different, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so if you're still unsure, then let me know, basically is what that says. So it takes a bit of getting used to. It might sound quite complicated, but it's really not. Once you kind of get into the program, then it works pretty well. All right, so I'll come to any questions in a second, but just to finish off, the way the payment's going to work this time is it's an ongoing kind of recurring payment plan. So you would effectively click a link on the website or through your app. So if you have the Do3 coaching app, you can go into it and you can select Do3 Commit as a product in the shop. Okay, that will charge you whichever level you're on. It will charge you that, and then it will charge you the same amount every month, once a month, and it'll just automatically come out of the bank. If you choose to stop, then that's fine. There's no minimum periods or anything like that. We just kind of keep it going until you want to drop off, and then we take you off the program. And it's as simple as that. There's no commitments there at all, so don't worry about that. All I will say is give it some time, because some people get twitchy early on because they might feel like it's a bit more complicated than it is. But just see that period through, because as with any new things, especially when there's tech involved and there's kind of terminology involved, then it can be a little bit tricky. But have some patience, see it through, and it'll be really worth it. Okay, so I think that's it. So has anyone else got any questions on that side of things? Do I need to relink my Training Peaks? No. If you're already connected up to us, John, then you just need to sign up through the app, and I will put you where you need to be within my Training Peaks account. So if you're already in there, don't worry about it. Hopefully that answer makes sense. Joe, so as for a race 70.3 mid-June, 2 weeks before the Edge, and 2 hilly standards in August and September, the Commit Edge would seem to work. Yeah, would do. Yeah. So it would take you up to peak in around about June, and then it would take you back down the other side. So you'd be going through you'd be dropping down to kind of standard focus in July, August, and then, well, we can advise you either to kind of let the standard phase kind of continue through, or you can continue following the program as it's planned and go down kind of even shorter towards kind of late August, September. But either way, it should fit in more or less fine for what you're looking to do. You're going to be in great shape by then anyway, so I don't think you need to worry about that, Joe. So that should work pretty well. We've got any more questions? I'm scanning through. What else have we got? I don't think there's any more questions. I think that's it. Lots and lots of comments, which is always nice. Okay, well, I hope that's made sense to you. It's been short and sweet. I've rattled through that to try and these things can drag on a bit. But again, if you've got any more questions, then let me know. It does start on Monday, so standard commit starts on Monday. If you're looking at commit Edge or Commit Flex, then we've got a bit more flexibility with those. Edge starts a month later, and Commit Flex, we arrange that with you. So if you wanted to do, well, and swim, you can go on any time as well. So the only one that there's any urgency for is Standard Commit, which starts on Monday. All right, so you need to click that button on the website or through the app and select the Commit, Do3 Commit option to get yourself up and running. As soon as you press that button, then we'll make sure that you know what you're doing. You don't need to worry about that. All right, so I think that's it. Apologies for the technical problems early on, but I think that's pretty much everything covered. And yeah, get in touch if you've got any questions, and I shall see you out there.